I've always wanted to have my own film festival. I used to help program and run a few other film festivals. And during the pandemic, the roller derby team who runs this rink ended up taking over running the rink for the fire department who owns this rink.
The rink was going to shut down. The board of directors is myself, Stark Raven, Sassy Bee, and Loki. So we decided to take it over to kind of revitalize the rink, mostly because we needed a home for the roller derby team, but also because we wanted to make sure that we gave it back to the community.
So I was like, hey, I want to run a film festival at the rink. And they're like, okay. So I've always wanted a cool venue. To me, this is like such a unique venue. And I figured if we're at a roller rink, there's got to be skating. Mm-hmm. And, well, there has to be live music. Mm-hmm. And then I'm covered in tattoos, so there has to be tattoos. And then, of course, there has to be food and drink. So you have to have all those things.
Hi, I'm Anne from the band Altered Pink, and I'm here with Chad Repko, who has 2 projects in the Skate or Die Film Festival this weekend. Chad, can you give us a little insight into what those projects are and what the audience can expect from them?
Yes, absolutely. So tonight we have Alone, which is a short film that we did more. It's more of the horror-esque sense about a man who's alone, basically at the end of the world, and you realize how it became that way. And then the second film that we have is Little Detectives: A Toy Too Far, which is the 3rd short film that we did in a series with 2 children detectives who have to solve murder. Once I kind of get an idea in my head, I can't not do anything about it. So these 2 projects actually we did at the same time because they were both swirling around in my head, so I just had to do them. I couldn't really wait for anything. What we had to do is minimize everything for one project just so that, it could just be me and a cameraman, so that we can work more on the Little Detectives one, which was a grander, more people involved.
It's a music video for a one-man band called Blood Handsome. The song is called Leaving. It is about a very sad zombie trying to find his way home on Halloween. My previous stuff were like kind of nihilistic dramas that hopefully would make the audience want to put a gun in their mouth and cry. This is PG and for all audiences, and I hope kids get to see it and enjoy it. Also, this was basically a collaboration between me and my fiance, and this was the first project we got to do together, so that was like super awesome. And I also got to collaborate with my best friend, Arin, who is my editor, and we've been working together since like 2006.
Wow.
So, yeah, so it was a little bit different, and it was a much more pared down crew than I'm used to, but I really liked that because it was much faster, and we were kind of designing this as like a run and gun production anyway.
My film is Cicada. I Was a Teenage Horror Movie, and it's a feature length, but a very short feature length horror comedy, which is basically footage that I shot when I was a teenager, about 13, 14, with my friends in rural Pennsylvania in the late 90s, and we just sat on VHS for a really long time. And then last year we decided, we should do something with this weird footage, because it's kind of hilarious to see at this point, 25 years later, what kids did in the late 90s for fun, trying to make a horror movie really earnestly. Like, we put a lot of effort into it. Normally I am a screenwriter, so I'm used to scripting things out and then shooting them more intentionally. In this case, it's like a found footage kind of thing, where we have all this material that we basically decided to make 25 years ago, but now the challenge in this case was to reframe it into something that was both coherent and palatable and entertaining at the same time, which can be really challenging because we kind of shot it over multiple weekends. Sometimes we would like go off on whims, like, this is a great idea, let's just do this, or we would decide, like, I have this thing, we should smash this weekend. We have an old car, we have like some sort of like household machinery that we should destroy, that we get to include in the film somehow, and that would become a whole set piece. So it was like very random and also challenging to try to make sense of it, and so at a certain point we just decided not to make sense of it and just string it together as a kind of experimental and hilarious, including partially accidentally hilarious, journey into like what it's like to just make something when you have passion but no resources.
The Rhythm of Ryan follows the music career of singer-songwriter and LGBT activist Ryan Casada from Los Angeles, California. Ryan's music meant a lot to me when I was a young kid, and I've always been a big fan of his, so I reached out on his social media and asked him if he would do this film with me. It meant a lot to me, and it was really important in my college career. It was a little hectic with his schedule and everything, but luckily with email and everything, we were able to work stuff out. They gave me a time limit on the film, and it had to be 15 minutes, so I was able to go through Ryan's YouTube and pull my favorite clips from that to put it in the film. So that was really cool. I'm very proud of this project because I'm very passionate about music and live music. My favorite thing in the world is going to concerts and everything, and also helping with LGBT issues and LGBT youth. So I think that film touches on everything.
I know some of the people who wound up buying this rink and running it. They're a roller derby crew and fierce, and they scared me into hosting tonight's event because they're fierce. There's such a variety that there's a lot of stuff here that interests me, an awful lot. I know some of the people involved, so I want to support them as colleagues and friends. But I have to admit, there was a piece of claymation that was. It was not sophisticated like Wallace and Gromit or even Mr. Bill. It was quite crudely rendered, but it was so visceral and exciting. And I have to admit, it was a bit of a splatterfest, so there was a lot of gore. And this is probably a twisted thing to say, but the gore looked like that raspberry syrup that gets drizzled on vanilla ice cream soft serve at a Mr. Whippy, and I kind of left that screening kind of hungry. So it looked delicious, and I can't wait to see the reaction from the audience.
It was the first project that I'd done using fabric and stuff, so the costumes for the puppets are all hand sewn, whereas before I would just use all plasticine. So that was kind of a particular challenge, which I would say was possibly the low. The sewing, getting into that on such a small scale was fairly difficult. I would say highlight would be creating the gore effects, which I, did a little bit of research into what other animators had done and things, and then kind of landed on my own sort of method. But seeing the sort of blood come to life in the animation was pretty wild.
My name is Vicky Size. I'm a writer-director, and with Amateurs, the script was actually written during the COVID lockdown. My best friend, she decided to just take advantage of the time, I suppose, to get into a new hobby. I know that was happening for a lot of people, and one of them was skating. And she just started to talk about it more and more throughout our conversations when we would catch up. So skating was sort of there, just lingering in my everyday talks with her.
Good Morning is just kind of like a short scare film. I wanted to do some experimentation with like daylight horror and do something about like somebody like waking up, and it plays on like sleep paralysis and sleep paralysis demons. I had been going through a period of having a bunch of really intense nightmares, and I was reached out to by the mom of the lead actress, and she said that they were going to be back in town from California, and we had worked with them a couple of times already, and I just was able to like put this together in like the 2 days that she was in town. So we shot for like one day, and like I just had the idea come to me. And whenever they messaged me at first, I was like, I don't know if I've got anything ready for that. And then it all kind of happened so fast. I had not really done like a creature kind of thing with like a full makeup, and I got really hands-on with the makeup artists, and we came up with this whole look where we had to have like a bald cap and all this like different paints and dyes. We had mouth dye, we had like teeth paints and contacts that we were using and stuff. So it was kind of like a bit more of like a fun SFX showcase in comparison to some of my other work that's maybe more just like dramatic thrillery stuff.
Orpheus and Eurydice is the oldest love story in Western civilization. And it's basically, the nutshell version is that it's about a mortal who is this amazing musician who goes to the world of the dead to rescue his wife after she's been abducted by the minions of the underworld. And so she is there, and he goes there to rescue her. He's the only mortal in the Greek pantheon to ever go to the world of the dead and actually survive. And he does survive. And without giving away the story of what happens with the rescue attempt, it's really placated on can love transcend death. So it has a very powerful theme. So doing Orpheus on skateboards with a skateboard guitar hero, that seemed like a fun way to go about it.
My name's Neil Willoughby. I'm the writer, director, and editor of Party's Over, which is a short horror sci-fi film that we shot in St. Clair Shores, Michigan. It's a fun little campy take on the sci-fi alien horror genre that takes place at a house party. So we got some friends together, shot it, and it was a lot of fun. And people have seemed to like it so far. So working with my director of photography, Mike, we have shorthand that he and I understand. We both do video professionally, and we both come from a background of needing to like run and gun shoot stuff. Quick lighting setups, quick location changes. It worked well for us for the first couple projects we did because we could set up our equipment fast because we both knew how to do that. And the learning curve for us became, okay, we're really good at, run and go. Let's take our time.
I guess it's just tedious. You just gotta power through. Just stay focused, keep cranking away, and when you're finished, it is really satisfying.
The same kind of spirit that made us, like, as teenagers in the late 90s making movies, we just didn't stop because we didn't have resources or money. We had very little, and we had very cheap VHS cameras and no real expertise, but we just decided to do it all the time, constantly. And we're also weirdly fearless about asking for help and resources, which I think is something that can be really easy to not take agency. But there's a lot of power in just saying, we're going to do this, and then reaching out to adults. And at that point, we were in our early teens. There's a lot of power in just saying, hey, can we use your building, your skating rink, or your whatever? So at the time, I think my advice would be to young filmmakers today the same as I would say to myself at the time, which was just do it and don't care about the production values and the cameras and the resources or who tells you yes or no. It's more about just making sure you decide to do it with the kind of passion can go a really long way.
I think just sort of taking it one step at a time, and just from also being an educator, even though, I was teaching in the English department and in the history department, ultimately the thing that I noticed that helps students the most across all subjects is chunking. How do you take a large, piece of something and break it up so that you can understand it slowly? And similar with, accomplishing goals. When I was in high school, I learned about SMART goals, which is an acronym. And essentially it's just to make it more doable. And I think that that's what I was struggling with when I was starting off. It was just how do I get from the paper to the screen? And it would just feel so overwhelming. And I definitely enjoyed film school. I found that to be extremely helpful. And but particularly Florida State University, they don't pay me to advertise for them, so I'm definitely doing it out of sincerity. It was the way that a mixture of kind of throw you in there, but also provide support and knowledge. That was such a helpful tool for me because, I'm not a YouTube learner, I guess is sort of the best way to describe it, but simply, just sort of take it one step at a time, because even now, even though I feel significantly more knowledgeable, it's still kind of oh my God, I'm kind of back to not doing it by myself, but doing it in even significantly smaller teams. So really the only thing that I can get through the day is just today I'm just going to be the producer and I'm going to sort of take those steps. Then tomorrow I'll be the director, things like that, just to kind of take it one step at a time, and before you know it, all the pieces have come together and you have your complete puzzle.
Some advice that I would give is just keep going and be creative. I started editing when I was 8 years old, so I just want the young filmmakers to just be creative and be themselves.
Know the phrase "whatever works works," so you don't have to really listen to what Hollywood might say or even other independent filmmakers might say. You have to do it this way. You don't have to do it this way. Whatever works works. If the audience gets it, they're going to get it. Really lean on all of the creative people around you. I myself don't consider myself talented in any way whatsoever, but the only thing I can do is bring all of the other creative people together. Know your friends and know their talents. Use them respectively use them, but make them a part of the whole thing, because it really does take way more than just one person to make these things.
What's great about film for me is that it's not just telling a story, right? If you want to tell a story, you just write something, write a book, right? But what you can do with like the medium of video and camera angles, and like to make people feel a certain way, or to show them how the character is feeling without saying anything, is just, there's such an art to that. And once like I became cognizant of it, it's something I knew I wanted to do. I wanted to learn how to do that. If you're starting to make your first passion project film, is it going to be watched on an IMAX screen? Chances are probably not. Like, there's so much. I think it can be overwhelming to like look at filmmaking and be like, hey, I'd really like to do this. I don't know where to start, and the idea of it is overwhelming because there's scripting, there's whatever. So build a community. Like, if you have friends who are interested in writing and you don't want to write, or if they're interested in camera work and you don't, necessarily know anything about camera work, like, teach yourself, grow your skill set, but just shoot things, because the only way to get better is by doing.
Go to as many film festivals like this as you can, and meet other filmmakers and programmers and see movies.
I feel like really lucky not only to be able to like have cast and crew that like put their trust in me, but also to like live in this time where it's so easy to be able to make a short film. One of my favorite things about the short film is the use of the eye contacts, but that was like a huge pain in the ass on set. And like we were using these mini sclera contacts that were like bigger than regular ones to like white out and black out eyeballs and stuff. And like it was not easy to get them in and out of people's eyes, and it took extra time, and it was an eye irritant, and people were getting red-eyed or tearing up and stuff, and then that could mess up makeup, and it was just like a whole lot. Just try to like make a movie on your phone so you can start learning. But for people that are maybe trying to do something a little more serious than that, get like a Facebook account and find a film group in your area and start looking for people that need hands on set, and go get on some sets and just observe and learn and help how you can. And then you'll have connections to help you make your film.
For young filmmakers, it's really important to experiment a little bit and get to a place where maybe it's uncomfortable, but that discomfort will serve you well in terms of being able to understand